Hello once again to the story Q&A live streams. My name is Tyler Mowery, and today I'm going to be answering your story questions. Today, as everybody comes in, there is something I sent out an email. I also made a post in the Discord in the announcements tab today. It's also in the Facebook group, and it's a community post on the YouTube channel. And I wrote this based on some of the conversations we had yesterday on the stream. And so I wrote this kind of after working with a few of you on that and answering some questions, and I wanted to read it to you today. So that's going to be our first order of business when we get started here today, and then we will be taking questions and hopping in as usual. Hello, Estera, Trevor, good to see you. Ayush, I am finally back. Thank you so much. I'm glad you've enjoyed the YouTube content. And then, can I actually put my camera on here in the Discord? Yes or no? Seems like no. Still need to figure that out. Okay, that's fine. All right, well, I'm going to let a few people funnel in here before we really get rolling. I hope you all have been doing well since yesterday. I have been working on, the big thing I've been doing right now is working on a lot of new course material for the practical screenwriting course. That's kind of my big task right now, and I've got some really, really cool stuff. So hopefully that will be all done in the next few weeks. That would be really, really ideal, but we will see. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys this. Let me make sure you guys can see this. Let's blow this bad boy up. All right, that should be almost good. We'll go there. Okay, so yeah, this is something I wanted to just read out to you guys. I want you to listen because we had some discussions yesterday about stakes and the 3 layers of stakes, how they are actually working in scenes. And so I built this out. Pedro, my sound is normal to me. It's looking the same. But I will definitely keep that in mind and raise it if it ends up being too quiet. All right, so let's read this out. So there are 3 elements to a character and to you: your beliefs, your feelings, your actions. And your beliefs are connected to your soul, your feelings are connected to your mind, and your actions are connected to your body. These 3 parts combine into the one unity that creates you. And any characters you create will reflect this basic but profound truth. They will have beliefs, they will have feelings, they will take actions. These 3 layers set up the 3 layers of stakes that exist in the story. Beliefs create the philosophical stakes. The choices your character makes have an effect on how they see themselves. This is the internal conflict the character has with their own soul, as well as the outer conflict they will have with the beliefs of the other characters. So philosophical stakes also creates internal conflict. That was something that I wanted to really touch on, because when your character has internal conflict, it is an internal conflict between what they feel that they should do with the choice that has been presented to them. Character relationships create the emotional stakes. Even the most evil antagonist can have a mother who will defend him to the very end. All characters have important people in their lives, as do you. These can be people you love and are close with, and it can also be old bullies, an ex, or an enemy. Your character web is not just characters with different beliefs. It is also characters in a web of important relationships. Your characters seek approval, forgiveness, and validation from the characters that are most important to them. Character desire creates the external stakes. Your character may want something in the real world and they are going after it. They want to win the court case. They want to buy the wedding ring. They want to destroy the ring of power. Sometimes it can feel like your character doesn't want something so obvious. This usually means that problems are finding them rather than the other way around. But when a problem arises, your characters now want to solve that problem in the outer world. So they will go out into the world, dealing with other characters, their worldviews, and their emotional relationships. The 3 stakes are 1. One of the first mistakes writers make is constantly worrying about all 3 levels of stakes in their scenes. This is completely unnecessary. Conflicts in a story combine these elements naturally into one moment of choice. Let me explain. In the Little Miss Sunshine ice cream scene, Olive wants to win the beauty pageant. This is our external stakes, which creates our outer want. She believes winning this pageant will make her a winner. This is the internal stakes and her philosophical belief. Her father, Richard, believes being seen as a winner is important, and Olive wants validation from her dad by winning the pageant. This creates the emotional stakes and the character relationship. With these larger story stakes in mind, let's look at the scene. On the way to the beauty pageant, Olive's family stops at a diner. Olive wants a bowl of ice cream, and the ice cream is now a simple item that stands in external opposition to winning a beauty pageant. And it now creates a philosophical point of debate. Should Olive eat a bowl of ice cream on the way to a beauty pageant? So Richard, her father, stops Olive from eating the ice cream, creating an emotional conflict between a father and a daughter. Olive, wanting to please her dad, sides with Richard. Externally, Olive wants to win a beauty pageant, but truly, Olive wants her father to love her for who she is. This is her need. The beliefs don't create the emotion by themselves. It's the character relationships that create emotion. Beliefs are what we fundamentally disagree on, but ultimately life isn't about agreeing with everyone's held beliefs. It is emotional alignment with the important people in your life. You cannot escape certain feelings toward important people in your life, even if you try. So notice that this one scene about a bowl of ice cream combines the external stakes, winning the pageant, with the internal or philosophical stakes, whether or not Olive should hold herself to society's standards, and the emotional stakes, pleasing her dad. All combined into whether or not Olive eats the ice cream. Combine all 3 layers of stakes in your story into one single choice. They aren't separate elements. They are 3 in 1. Hopefully that's helpful for you. And this also, and I want to take a look at the actual scene itself here while we've got it. And let me also do this so that my Discord people can also follow along. So what I'm trying to articulate here is that there's not like philosophical choices and then emotional choices and then external or plot choices, right? They're all the same at all times. And so even in this scene where we have Olive orders ice cream, then her father, Richard, does not want her to have the ice cream because they're on the way to a beauty pageant. So now we have this dilemma that is Richard's philosophical beliefs against really everyone else's. It's him by himself kind of versus everyone else here. Cheryl's the first to speak up, and now we have this whole conflict here. And now this becomes an emotional conflict about the beliefs brought on by a choice in the external world, right? A choice to get the ice cream. So I say this because when you guys are working on your stories, all you need to be working on is figuring out what the choice in the scene is when you're trying to understand how to write a good scene, right? You're not trying to figure out, oh, how do I do 17 different things, or how do I do philosophical choices and external choices and emotional choices. Your choices should combine these elements together, right? So we have all three layers of stakes involved in a single moment, a single point of choice. This is how you get that level of clarity that actually makes your scenes work. And then your scenes don't need to cover all these different things, right? Your scenes don't have to cover 45 different things. All they need to cover is that one singular scene choice. And so in this video, I talk about the matrix, which is in this scene, the one choice between the red pill or the blue pill, right? It is one single scene object. And this scene from Kingdom of Heaven, the question is very simple. Will Jerusalem go to war? And so now we have the two sides of the ring. What's fun about this scene is it's literally split down the middle, right? Like you can actually look at this shot here, which is brilliantly done, where we've got the men in white over here, and then we have the men in blue over here, and they are in opposition, and they are literally color-coded.
It was no caravan.
And then, same thing if we go further. Here, right, this is a choice about whether or not Elizabeth will marry Mr. Darcy. And so again, this combines all three layers of the stakes into one moment of choice. One, the philosophical beliefs about who Mr. Darcy is, who Elizabeth is, their standings, their, a lot of the story is about the kind of person that Elizabeth is looking for, right? And whether or not Darcy has those qualities. Obviously, it's a very emotional choice because she's being asked to marry Darcy. And obviously, then it becomes a choice in the external world because, again, he has asked her to marry him, right? Getting married is an external thing that we do, right? With another person. So don't overcomplicate your scene choices, right? Naturally, a lot of the times, if you have set up the story in the right way, right? If you set up the chess pieces of your story in the right way, the choices start to naturally have all three layers of stakes. So hopefully that is helpful to you. Let's see here. Let me see if I can. One moment. I'm being told there are some technical difficulties in the Discord here. Let me see if I can hop in and hop back in here. Guys, let me know if you can hear me now. Apologies if you cannot. I'm not quite sure what the issue is there. Got you loud and clear? Perfect. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Perfect. Cool. Yeah, all I need to do is figure out how to show my camera in Discord as well, and we will be good to go. Vegan Butcher asks, Tyler, when will you analyze shorts live again? I will definitely analyze shorts live again. So what I'd like to do on that is if you have a short script or a short film that you want me to react to or to give you notes on, come into the Discord. It is linked below this the video you are watching now, the live stream you're watching now. If the link is not working, let me know and I will fix it. And then inside the Discord, you will see a submit project tab, and that is where you can submit projects. And so absolutely, I will do more analyzing shorts, reading scripts, these kinds of things. So that can absolutely happen. I want to do that more in the Discord. I know before I was doing that through email, but I think doing everything through the Discord is way better because Discord actually rules, and it's like my favorite program right now. So what is that name? Butia story? How to create non-violent conflict. Well, I'm on the screen right now. This is an example of a non-violent conflict where Mr. Darcy is asking Elizabeth to marry him, and she's saying no here. And so they are having a verbal conflict rather than a violent one, right? Same for the Little Miss Sunshine scene earlier. They are having a verbal conflict rather than a violent one. So most of your conflicts, most of your dialogue scenes are going to be scenes of conflict that are not directly violent, right? It is the step below violence. And so you can add a lot of emotion and intensity into the dialogue, right? Into the dialogue conflict that does not have to like spill over into a physical fight. All right. I see. Oh, it was there for a moment. Used to scrub. If you'd like to speak, let me know. I'll definitely bring you up if you have a question. Also, I'm going to put on some good vibrations here. Let's do this. Okay. All right. Let's see. Trevor said I actually finished the script because your short film tip videos. Thank you. Perfect. That's awesome, Trevor. Cool. All right. Who was it that was saying, yeah, vegan, if you have a short that you want me to take a look at, definitely let me know. I will absolutely show it if you've got one for me. But anyways, we were discussing the scenes here. So most scenes are not physical conflicts, right? Like the large majority of scenes are this, right? Characters standing around. Notice how speaking to each other, right? The large majority of conflicts are characters talking. So if the large majority of characters the large majority of scene conflicts are characters talking, then how do we actually make that dramatic? Well, you need a choice, right? The idea is you are setting up an action that characters disagree on what needs to happen, right? Same thing with like any sort of huge societal conflict is all about decisions, right? So like if you have Republicans versus Democrats, these are two camps that are trying to pull a major decision, right? The decision of who's going to be president or who's going to be another elected individual. They're trying to pull public opinion their way, right? So that they get the outcome they want, so that the choice outcome that they want is made. That's why elections can become so hugely entertaining, right? And we can have these wild sequences that last a year or more about who's gonna win, right? That is the dramatic question there is who is going to win the election, right? It's same as the dramatic question that you see on the screen for this single scene, right? For one scene in succession here, the FBI has come to Waystar Royco, and the question is, are we going to cooperate with the FBI raid or not? So you have this in one single scene, but then dramatic questions can also be for the larger story at hand, right? If you made a big movie about winning an election, then the big dramatic question that is taking us through that entire story is who is going to win the election? And that becomes the biggest dramatic choice Therefore, that also becomes your climax, right? So your climax, if we're looking at how to create a climactic choice, your climax is going to be, one, it is going to be story defining and what I mean by story defining is it will end the conflict. Right? So with this scene, this is the climax of this episode. Whether or not they cooperate with the FBI raid, hello Mariella, will be the definitive choice. Right? This is the defining choice of the story. Same with Lord of the Rings, where Frodo is going to toss the ring into Mount Doom. Right? This will be the story-defining choice, right? It will end the conflict of the choice. Another element of a strong climactic choice is your entire character web is involved. What I notice a lot of times in poorly written stories is that we get to the climax, but then half of our character web is not involved in that climax. But your whole, like, the more characters that are involved in a particular action or choice, the more dramatic that choice is, right? So when you're thinking about how you're going to make a climax, think about how you can add as many important characters as humanly possible that have been important throughout the entire story to this big moment. And then you have this just strengthens this piece here, right, where we have the story defining choice, and also your climactic choice will usually have your moment of full character arc. I've got there's something I'm going to show you guys today. It's like Daniel says, ever since the choices video, I can't stop seeing how often choices are in shows or movies. And it's also what I notice makes the most compelling scenes. Absolutely. Everything that you think is dramatic is probably based around this choice and a conflict of the two sides of that choice, right? In some way, like some sort of outcome, right? And then a conflict about what that outcome is going to look like, right? That is what a choice is. That is literally all of sports, right? So think about all this infrastructure that exists, not only in America, but all over the world, of sports teams and coaches and multi-million-dollar contracts and, you know, a billion guys who their whole job is to talk about the last football game, right, on ESPN and these kinds of things, Sports Center analysis, all this stuff. All that is about, they're discussing the outcomes of games, right, which is essentially every single game is the setup for the choice. So like, okay, who is going to win this game, right? The dramatic choice, the dramatic question going into a sports game is who is going to win, right? Every single time. And so that's what we are most interested in, right? It's the same with elections. Who's going to win the election? It's the same with courtroom dramas, right? Why is court dramatic? Well, because you have the prosecution and you have the defendant, right? You have two sides in arguments, right? That's what lawyers do. Lawyers argue the law, argue precedent, argue these things. And so then you have this back and forth about who is going, like, what is the outcome going to be? And then the power of choice usually rests with the judge, right? So once you start to realize, like, that the whole world around you is based around choices, like it's all set up, like the choices that you make are the reason that your life is the way that it is, the reason that your world is the way that it is, and the choices of others also affect you, but your day-to-day existence is based on the choices that you make and the choices that you repeatedly make. So once you realize that, you can also understand that it is the same for characters, because all characters are a representation of, has 3 levels of stakes, 3 levels of what makes them, right? What makes them them. This, in the same way, you are 3 in 1, right? You are soul, you are mind, you are body, all together 3 in 1. You are inseparable. And in that same way, your story is dealing with these 3 elements, but they are 3 in 1. They are always brought together in a singular moment, singular dramatic question, singular choice. I keep getting asked when I'm gonna make new YouTube videos, and I totally understand that. Because, you know, I haven't put one out in a minute, but I want to walk you through some elements I've been looking at about climaxes, because so this is the video script. Guys, the few, the proud, the ones who watch me on stream. This is the video script for a video that I have been working on that I have not released. This is like the 3rd or 4th version of the script, and then I did a whole version of the video and then scrapped it all. But it's all kind of based around the choices video. It's almost like a part 2 of that choices video. Because essentially understanding that the choice is the fundamental driver of scenes, then the question becomes, okay, if choice is the fundamental driver of scenes, therefore a climax is just the biggest possible choice you can have. How does that actually work? And so in this, I'm gonna just read through some of the pieces I have here. So, first off, a climax is a choice. A story follows the conflict of 2 worldviews or philosophies that battle each other through character choices. This is philosophical conflict. This philosophical conflict is expressed through choices made by characters. A scene shows characters in conflict over a choice, and the dialogue in the scene is the argument about what choice to make. The choice can also be decided through action, which makes the argument physical or violent. And a climax is simply the biggest story-defining choice that resolves the conflict between the characters and their worldviews. Lord of the Rings is about a philosophical conflict between overwhelming evil versus underdog good. Little Miss Sunshine is about a philosophical conflict between public image versus private life. These 2 philosophies are made physical by characters who represent the 2 sides. Sauron represents overwhelming evil. Frodo and Aragorn represent the fight for good. Richard and Olive in Little Miss Sunshine represent your value being in your public image. Grandpa and Cheryl represent your private life mattering most. In the climactic choice of Lord of the Rings, Frodo must make the choice between destroying the Ring of Power or keeping it for himself. In the climactic choice of Little Miss Sunshine, Richard must make the choice between supporting his daughter or taking her off stage. So to summarize, a story is about 2 worldviews in conflict, represented by characters who battle out this philosophical conflict by making important choices. This battle leads the characters to one single climactic choice that will define the entire story. One side will win, one side will lose. Valmir says, "Hello Tyler, I've been struggling with a logline for a while. I'm unsure whether or not this has enough of an antagonistic force. Could you give me feedback?" Yes, I will give you some feedback very, very shortly. So this is one of the biggest reasons why, so this is kind of where act structure, story circle structure, then starts to combine with scene choices in creating a final climax. Because, as I have here, a climactic choice is only powerful with clear setup. So to write a great climax, we must start at the beginning of the final act. So what happens is, you are going to have the lead up to this huge climactic choice that happens at the end. And if you're going to create that climactic choice, it requires you understanding how to actually structure an act so that you can lead that act to a climactic point. This is why I don't want to hear about rule breaking. I don't want to hear about why you think it's a good idea to not have structure, or why you want to immediately look for exceptions. Because the reality is, you don't even kind of understand this, and this is going to break open writing for you in a way that nothing else really will. So, what happens here in a story circle is the first half is the setup. The setup gives us an understanding of who our important characters are, what they want, what problem stands in their way, and what key choice they make to tackle the problem at hand. So we kind of have these first 4 beats set up here. Who and where are the important characters? What is the hero's goal? What is the problem standing in the way of the hero's want? And what choice is made to solve the inciting problem? The second half is the payoff. The payoff uses the story elements created in the setup and brings them to a climax. Notice the 2, want establish, is paid off in the 5, want achieved, where the character achieves their goal. The 3, inciting problem, is paid off in the 6, surprise problem, where the force of antagonism becomes a surprise and immediate problem. The 4, debate and choice of commitment, is paid off in the 7, climactic choice, where the character makes an initial choice at the 4, then is given a new choice to see if they will change their worldview when placed under the pressure of the 6. And the 1, character status quo, is paid off in the 8, new character status quo, where the beliefs, emotional state, and physical location of the character is now different from the 1. So, hopefully this kind of makes sense, right? And I've color-coded this to make this clear, is you're setting up who your character is and where they are, you're setting up what they're going after, you're giving them a problem, you're giving them a point to debate and choose how to solve that problem, and this gives us the setup of the story, because then they're going to use this choice that they make to solve the problem to get to here, right, to get to their goal, and then this surprise problem is going to send them into our climactic movement, right? And so what happens is this becomes the payoff, because we get a sense of what the character wants here, a sense of what they're going after, and then this is paid off. They get what they wanted on some level. They get, and usually it's like they get to where they're going, right? A lot of times it's that. And then suddenly there's a problem that they did not expect to come up. So they must make an immediate choice to solve it. This is another thing, that these pieces are usually happening totally together. There's usually not a delay between the two. Because here, there can be a bit of a delay, right? There's a problem that can come up, but then we actually have time to debate, create a plan, discuss how it's going to work. But once we get to our payoff, this is happening all at once. And so in Lord of the Rings, this is kind of how it works. This is from the third act of, or the final act of the third film. So 1 is the character status quo. Our main character, Frodo and Sam, are in Mordor. Aragorn, along with Gandalf and our other characters, are in Minas Tirith following a huge battle. We get this sequence of 3 scenes where Frodo wakes up in Mordor, and the orcs kill each other over his clothes. Sam enters to save Frodo and defeat a few orcs. And when Sam frees Frodo, we get a reminder of the ring's power. Sam wants to keep the ring, and Frodo snatches it from him. So this 1 in the act is made up of about 3 scenes here. Frodo wakes up in Mordor. We have the choice that the orcs fight over his armor, and they end up killing each other. It's the orcs' choice here. Scene 2, Sam enters a tower to save Frodo and encounters some orcs. Sam fights the orcs. Then scene 3, which is the pivotal scene of this little sequence, Sam frees Frodo, but Sam has the ring. And the question is, will he give it back to Frodo? And ultimately, he does. Frodo takes the ring from Sam. From here, now that Sam has rescued Frodo, Frodo can continue pursuing his goal. 2 is the character 1 established. They want to get to Mount Doom so that he can destroy the evil ring of power. So, this is really kind of combined. This 2, it really isn't even its own scene. It doesn't really have its own scene. It's combined with the 3 here, which is Frodo and Sam walk through Mordor and see a massive orc army in their way. This is the inciting problem. This is the big problem of the act. How are they going to make it to Mount Doom? And this is Sam's little choice here in the scene when he says, let's just make it down the hill for starters. So this scene establishes the inciting problem, and now the next scene begins the debate. Notice we have 4 scenes so far, right? Keep in mind the amount of scenes, because it's important to understand how many scenes you actually are going to have in an act, right? It's very important to understand that because there's only a finite amount of scenes. If you have 30 pages in an act, it's really hard to have 45 scenes, right? Like, you're going to have a set amount of scenes because you have an understanding of how long your act is going to be. So once they encounter the massive orc army, and this is the inciting problem, 4 is the debate and choice of commitment. How do the characters decide what to do next? So we go to scene 5. Our supporting characters, Aragorn and the council, discuss what choice to make to solve Frodo's problem for him. It opens with this kind of line: 10,000 orcs now stand between Frodo and Mount Doom, and ultimately they make a choice. Aragorn and his army will march on the Black Gate to create a diversion for Frodo. And so this is where, we get some shots of them leaving and this kind of thing, but I don't really consider that its own scene because there's not really a choice being made. We're more so following up the choice that's already been made in scene 5. Scene 6, Frodo and Sam see the orcs clear out of their way. So what's interesting about this is Frodo, who is the protagonist, doesn't actually solve his inciting problem himself here, which is kind of interesting, right? Aragorn and the council solve it for him, which totally works. Now the rest of this marches us towards the choice of commitment. So essentially, the choice of commitment is kind of going to be the point, especially in a climactic act like this one, where your character can no longer back off. They cannot back down after this choice of commitment has been made. This will be the so right here. Remember, in a final climactic act, once we get to the choice of commitment, you enter the climactic or payoff half of the act. So after the final choice of commitment, there is no turning back. It's also important to note how both Frodo and Aragorn are strong forces of choice in this act. This is where your character web comes into play in understanding who is making the key choice in each moment. So then we get to scene 7. We're still in the 4 of the act. Yes, I can turn it down a little. We're still in the 4 of the act. We're at scene 7. And this scene is important because this scene is going to take us through the entire climactic half of the act. So what's interesting is we are watching one scene where all this present conflict is going to be happening. And remember, present conflict equals high drama. Present conflict makes the act interesting and fast-paced. If you have huge time jumps in your climax, it will be boring and lose its momentum. This scene intercuts with Frodo and Sam's journey. Frodo drinks the last of their water, the eye sees Frodo, Aragorn calls for Sauron to open the gates, Aragorn gives a speech to his soldiers, we have some smaller beats here, and finally we get to the choice of commitment. So in the choice of commitment, this is where Aragorn is making the choice to attack Sauron's army. This is huge because once Aragorn makes this attack, Frodo has to destroy the ring or they will all die. Aragorn and all of his friends, all of Frodo's friends, are going to die. And so this is also creating the external stakes and sending us into that present conflict of the payoff, so that Frodo actually has to bring all of this conflict to its finale. So, to reiterate, we have the setup: Frodo and Sam are in Mordor. The 2, Frodo wants to destroy the ring. The 3, we've got the massive army blocking the path of Frodo and Sam. We have the 4, Aragorn's choice of commitment to solve Frodo's problem. And now the stakes have been set up. If Frodo can't destroy the ring in time, Aragorn and all of his allies will die. The arrow has been drawn back. Everything is set to pay off. Now we get to the 5. Frodo and Sam make it to Mount Doom, and I want to pause here for a moment and talk about what the 5 means, what this midpoint of your story circle means, okay? From the beginning, the goal was, we want to get to Mount Doom. We want to destroy the ring ultimately, right? That is the ultimate goal. But the immediate goal right now is, we need to get to the mountain, because we can't destroy the ring unless we're at the mountain, right? So first we need to get to the mountain. So now we are at the mountain. Obviously the conflict is not over yet because the ring is not destroyed, but the characters have gotten what they wanted. And as we get this victory, we also get a turn for good in the battle. The Eagles come to fight against the Nazgul, and we have this sort of sense in the film where, great, we're winning, things are on the right track. But then, this is where Gollum attacks, and Sam has to fight Gollum off while Frodo enters the mountain, but it ends up being okay, right? Sam fights Gollum off, Frodo enters the mountain, and this is the big 5, right? Frodo is finally in Mount Doom. We have this huge victory at that point in the story. This pays off the 2, where we saw Frodo's wand out there in the distance, and now we are here. Frodo has not yet destroyed the ring, but he has arrived at his goal. He is in the physical location where he will make the all-important final choice. By the way, if you haven't seen Lord of the Rings and you don't want me to spoil the final climax, I'm about to for you. But also, I do want to say that this is a writing stream for writers. This is not an audience stream. My channel is also for writers, not even for people that are audience members. And so if you want video essays that are meant for audience members, you can go other places. But I spoil endings to teach you and help you learn, because I assume that you want to be a writer. And with that in mind, I am going to go ahead and spoil the final climax of Lord of the Rings. So, now, Frodo is now in the mountain, right? This is the big 5. He's in the physical location where he's going to have to make his all-important final choice. 6 is a surprise problem. Now that we're inside Mount Doom, the rest of this is supposed to be easy. Frodo simply walks to the edge, throws the Ring of Power in, evil is defeated, and we all go home. Simple enough, right? This is why the 6 is a surprise. If the hero expects the 6, it doesn't make sense. Frodo has traveled all this way, and finally, the ring is above the fires of Mount Doom. Now, let me see if I can actually... I think it would be beneficial to show this. Just to give you guys a bit of a visual here. Okay. All right. So, Frodo is now in Mount Doom, right? We've climbed all this way, all the way to the top of the mountain. We'll start here just so that you can see. Frodo has now finally made it, right? This is our 5. Then, now we're in a choice moment here, right? Now Now, what's interesting about this choice moment here, will he drop the Ring of Power or not, is the big question. Frodo's traveled all this way. Finally, the ring is above the fires of Mount Doom, but the ring speaks to him because the ring is a character in the story. There are 3 characters in the scene. Sam tells Frodo to destroy the ring tells Frodo to keep it. It is Frodo's choice. Everything comes down to this debate. What's interesting here is we don't even have to understand the language of the ring to know what it is telling Frodo to do. So when you notice in this scene,
What are you waiting for? Just let it go!
Alright, so notice here too, right? We get the line from Sam. I love that. He's like, what are you waiting for? Just let it go. And the music kind of comes in, and now we got Sam's perspective, right? We got he is on the side of destroy the ring. He is the mouthpiece of that perspective in the moment. And the ring is the perspective of the other side. Keep me. So notice as well that, hello Stevenson, welcome to the stream. Notice as well that this is the biggest, most dramatic moment in the films. Now there's obviously some action happening outside because Aragorn and all of his men are fighting the orcs right now. But in this dramatic moment, it's very small, right? It's just a guy holding a ring. Like, that's all that we're seeing here. The reason it's so dramatic is because of the understanding of building in all of that context, building in all of that meaning, and understanding that fundamentally what sits at the center of all story is important choices. Did I get bopped? Did I get hit? The content owner has allowed me to their allow list. Okay, so I think I'm getting content hit because I'm showing a clip for the millionth time. Let me know in the chat if you guys can still see it because I think I'm getting copyright struck. Once again. It's one of my favorite things to do. I think I'm still live. Okay, yeah, I think I'm still live. Okay. YouTube's giving me a warning like, sir, we noticed that you're playing a movie clip, sir. Okay, cool. Great. I'm still here. Excellent. Okay, I've got this warning in my YouTube studio live stream. Warning, heads up, we've detected video in your stream belonging to someone else. Thanks, guys. Eustace said, I've never understood why this scene has affected me so much until now. I think this is a scene that represents the choice we are having to make on a daily basis. Yeah, fundamentally, Lord of the Rings is a story about good and evil. And one might say, the background music is still loud? Okay. It's like so quiet to me, I can barely hear it. It's really, oh well. Maybe I just need to bump up my voice. I like having my music though. But, okay, music doesn't seem loud to me. But yes, Eustace, you said I never understood why this scene has affected me so much until now. Yeah, Lord of the Rings is a story about the conflict between good and evil. And that is a very quote-unquote basic conflict, but it is extremely profound, right? And what's interesting in this story is that, and I think a really poignant way to think about how evil affects us in our lives. Spear says this is a story about Tyler fighting YouTube copyright. Yes, that's my battle. I think that what we see here is, like, Frodo's true struggle is what? It is resistance. Can he resist the power of the ring? Can he resist the ring's temptation? Right? And I think that's what's really profound about this story, is that it's not the orcs that that everybody's like, oh yeah, we're totally gonna join the orcs, right? We're all gonna be orcs. That sounds like a great idea. It's like nobody wants to do that. It is the power, it is the allure, it is the temptation of evil power, right? Of, you know, your own ego that can be brought forth by the ring channeling your power. What's interesting about the story of the Lord of the Rings is that all of these characters in the story, they have their own sort of relationship or projection to what the ring would do to them or through them, right? And so these characters in the story that have a ambition for power, the more they have an ambition for power, the more the ring can tempt them, and the more they are weak to it. And so I think that this is very true, is that a lot of the times what we're doing in life is we are resisting temptation. We are resisting the things that bring us down. We are resisting the things that we think for a moment are going to be satisfying to us, when in reality they are not satisfying, and they are going to leave us hurt. And so what's great in this moment, and I am going to play this, copyright or not, but this is where Frodo makes an extremely important choice. And what's interesting here is that Frodo's choice is actually the 6 here. It is the surprise Frodo's choice is the surprise problem, not the climactic choice, which is really interesting, and I'll explain what I mean here in a moment. But let's watch Frodo make a choice that creates the surprise problem in the story.
The ring is mine.
Okay, so he chooses to keep the ring. Ring is mine. He's gonna put it on, and then really it's the moment of him putting it on is the real surprise problem. That the exact moment is there. So good, right? So good. So, Frodo makes the wrong choice here. The ring is mine, and all is lost. And what you notice too, again, we're making a climax. A climax has a size to it, right? It has a scale to it. So everything shifts towards evil winning in the story, not just this single moment with Frodo, right? So what you'll see, and I'll let this play for a moment, but the eye turns towards the mountain entrance. The Nazgul fly to the ring. Gandalf senses something is wrong. Gollum is back and knocks Sam out. The troll emerges to kill Aragorn. Gollum bites Frodo's finger off. The troll shoves Aragorn to the ground. So what we have is the 6 is a whole moment in the story. And so when you get in these story circle beats, you want to think, okay, how is this story circle beat, this moment, this sort of energy that we're in, how is it affecting the entire character web, right? So here we've got the Nazgul, right? They turn to go after the ring. We have Gandalf trying to fight. Senses something is wrong. We've got Gollum here, knocks Sam out. He attacks Frodo. Aragorn is confronted by the troll. The troll fights him. Right? So we have all of these pieces, and so now we're intercutting. Now Gollum bites Frodo's finger off. Aragorn is thrown to the ground by the troll. Legolas sees this, and he can't make it to him. Frodo falls to the ground, right? Everything is going wrong. Everything is going wrong together. That's what you want it to feel like when you get these big climactic surprise problems. It's not just, oh, my one character does this thing. Our entire character web is affected by each beat. And so this is why Frodo is the protagonist of the story, right? People are like, oh, well, what if I have two protagonists? What if I have this? What if I have that? Is Aragorn the protagonist of the story? Frodo is the protagonist because his decisions are affecting everyone, right? He is the biggest force of power here because he is the ring bearer. He is the only one that can actually do the task here. Bring this across the finish line, throw it into Mount Doom. If he doesn't do that, everyone else loses. That's what makes him the protagonist. He has the most important choice to make. Now, we go to the 7. The 7 is the climactic choice. Gollum now has the ring. And as Gollum jumps for joy, Frodo gets up and fights Gollum on the edge for the ring. This is what we see here. He's so happy, so excited. Gonna jump around a little bit so I don't get copywritten, hopefully. Look how happy he is. Frodo is not so happy about it. And now he's gonna go fight him on the edge. Now, this right here is the highest moment of drama in Lord of the Rings. This is the highest moment of drama in this 3-film epic saga. It's happening right here, where these two characters are battling as they teeter on the edge of this precipice with the Ring of Power. And so then Frodo shoves Gollum off the cliff, and they both go over the edge. And that really, what's interesting, that is the climactic choice. And again, Lord of the Rings is a unique story in certain ways. But I'll explain kind of what's happening here. Is the ring? Frodo shoves Gollum off. They both fall. See ya, Joseph. Thanks for hopping on. The ring falls with Gollum. Frodo is able to hang on. And now, as Frodo clasps Sam's hand, the Ring of Power is dissolved into the lava. Now, everything shifts toward good winning. We go the opposite from what we had in the 6. Everything shifts towards good winning. Eye of Sauron feels the pain. The troll fighting Aragorn runs away. The tower falls, and good has conquered evil. This moment pays off Aragorn's choice at the choice of commitment at the 4. Even though it wasn't perfect, Frodo is able to finish the job and destroy the Ring of Power, paying off Aragorn and the army's commitment to fight for Frodo at the 4. And what I love about this climax is that Frodo makes the wrong choice and Gollum becomes necessary for good to win the day. No, the 7 and the 6 do not switch places, Stevenson. The 7 is not fully made by Frodo here. This is what's important about Lord of the Rings and important about this epic story, and part of the reason that this epic story has existed for so long in the human psyche, right? Tolkien wrote this story forever ago, and it still exists to this day as an important story, because what we have is that Frodo makes the wrong choice creating the 6, and Gollum becomes necessary for good to win the day. In the first film, Gandalf makes a very important statement about Gollum, where Frodo says, "It was a pity Bilbo didn't kill him when he had the chance." And Gandalf says, "Pity? Many that live deserve death. Some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them, Frodo? Do not be too eager to deal out death and judgment. My heart tells me that Gollum still has some part to play yet. The pity of Bilbo may rule the fate of men." So then, in a way, Gollum and Frodo together create the climactic choice of Lord of the Rings. Gollum becomes necessary for Frodo to make the right choice. And I think it's really cool there because it shows that there is this, what ultimately Lord of the Rings is saying is that there are forces, the forces of God, the forces of nature, the forces of good, that are at play in the way that everything plays out, right? There is this meaningful nature to the world that we're in, to the universe we find ourselves in, and it plays out in a certain way. And in many ways, you could almost say it's predestined to play the way that it plays. I don't know if you've ever felt that in your life, where things seem to just work out in a certain way, or you go through a hard time and you get through the other side and you realize that everything ended up better for it, and if you hadn't gone through that difficulty, you would not have received what you have now. And you kind of have this sense of, wow, it seems like things worked out so perfectly for my good. And I think that's what we see in Lord of the Rings, where from the very beginning, no one really knew what to do. No one really had all of the pieces figured out. If you go to the very beginning of the Lord of the Rings series, they create the Fellowship of the Ring, right? Where very quickly, Frodo, in the very beginning, he's just shoved into this world where Bilbo leaves him the ring. Now he has to do something with it, and he takes it to Rivendell, and he realizes no one else can take it forward but me. And the Fellowship of the Ring is formed, right? 9 companions that set out to go to Mordor to destroy the ring. And by the end of that first film, the Fellowship is disbanded, right? So none of the characters really know, none of them have, what's up, Grander? None of them have also Tom is here. What's up, Tom? The SFM guy. None of the characters have all of the pieces. They don't know what it's going to look like. And so what happens is you have this really beautiful story where the characters are just trusting in good and trying to do their best. And everything keeps breaking and not working, but they just keep pushing, and they just trust that there is still good in this world, and that there is good that can fight the forces of evil. And if they just keep pushing, that it will work out, that they will get the opportunities they need, that things will work out for them in the way that they need to. And so that's what happens. Frodo tries to leave the Fellowship, and then Sam stays with him, and then they travel together. And that was never the plan, for it to just be the two of them, but that's how it works out, right? There's almost this nature of you have to learn how to study life to understand how things have this sort of flow of working out, not working out, and like how things morph and change and can exist outside the sense of your own sort of ego or your sense of I must have everything totally figured out. Because imagine a world where it's only Frodo and Sam that arrive to Mount Doom and Gollum does not follow them there. What happens? Does Sam have the strength required to fight against Frodo and shove Frodo over the edge to destroy the ring? I don't think so. I think in that situation, Frodo beats Sam. I think he overpowers him, right? So then you have this sense where Gollum becomes so necessary for good to win. And I think that's really, really profound, because it really it has this sense of every character and every person in real life has their own part to play in the great clock that we all exist inside of. So you could even make an argument that from the very beginning of The Lord of the Rings, it was always going to be okay. That from the moment Frodo is given the ring, it's going to work out for good. But throughout that whole journey, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of chaos. Things don't go the way that the characters think they're going to. But in the end, the forces of good naturally align in this way that seems perfect. And I think that as I have studied story, that's what I have felt more and more and more, is that there almost is this, in the same way that a great story has this element of meaningful, almost perfection in the way that things play out, I think life works the same way. I think that the things that happen to you are not on accident. I think that the people that you meet are not on accident. I think the important people in your life are not accidents. I think all of this plays together and plays into the meaningful story that is your life, and then your life plays into the meaningful story that is how we are all connected. And I think that The Lord of the Rings is a great example of that, because we see good working in ways that we cannot understand. And so, I only hope that I have the ability one day to write something so profound and so truthful as what we see in The Lord of the Rings. And what's fascinating about this story is that it's at a level of being profound that it almost makes me feel like there is some realism involved in the story, because we have this myth essentially, right? Like The Lord of the Rings is a mythical story, and yet it has such a alignment to how life really works and how forces work. And I think that's why it works so well. And I think that's why most fantasy or sort of myth stories, they have that sense, right? There's a sense of the mythical side of light versus the mythical side of darkness, or God versus the devil, right? These highest representations of these two opposing forces, right? The two fundamental yin and yang that exists not only within us, but in the world around us. And the way in which those different pieces all sort of play perfectly together to get something as beautiful as you see at the end of The Lord of the Rings. IQ Scorpion, I saw you had your hand up. If you still have a question for me, let me know. I can definitely bring you up and have you speak. Yes, he does.
Hello again.
Hello,
So my question is for the writing and the stories and the idea that I told you yesterday. For the story circle, can you like explain it more? Like, because I don't understand it.
What specifically?
Like, what is the idea of the story circle? What do we like get from it? Like, in general, like all the important stuff from the story circle.
In the sense of how you're using it or why it exists in
Yeah,
some way.
yeah, like how we use it and why, and yeah, like in general, all things
So
in general.
I've got a all of the things in general. Okay.
No, no, not like
I've got a
yeah,
ton
like
of.
how you know, no, no. To be more specific, is how to use it and why do you use it? Like only these two. Like I thought those only the two things that we
Okay.
need to know.
Well, hopefully, what I just went through in this act of The Lord of the Rings gave you a certain sense of how to use the story circle, and the sense of
Yeah,
it is a tool with which you can structure not only your entire story, but also the acts in your story.
yeah,
Because, like, essentially, there is a. You know what? The best way to do this is to just talk about the theory of it. I just went through a lot of story circle act stuff here, but I'm gonna get into some of Harmon's writings on it, which will be hopefully better to give you some context as to why it is important. So give me just a moment here. Okay, so I'm gonna read this article to you. Hopefully you can see this on the screen.
yeah. I can.
And wow, this is the laggiest website of all time. Look at all these ads. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. So, first off, you will have like the duality: good, evil, truth, lie, life, death, conscious, unconscious, order, chaos. We have duality in life. We go through duality in life regularly. Wow, this is actually okay. Hopefully we're good. This might be laggy a little bit, but essentially, we have this ritual that is a story that is kind of like descent and return. In this descent and return is how we learn, how we grow, how we become a stronger person. So, let's say you live in a village. You're a young boy. You're 10 years old. How are you going to be stronger? Well, you're going to go a little bit outside the village and you're going to climb things and you're going to encounter animals and you're going to fall and you're going to have to get up and you're going to get more used to using your physical body, and then you're going to come home where it's safe to your home and go to sleep and recover, right? So this sort of going out, experiencing chaos, experiencing hardship, and then returning stronger is the fundamental loop of how someone grows, right? So with that in mind, you can think about this in many different aspects of the human existence. So for example, and this is Harmon's writings. I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but I think this is a good way to get a sense of the circle. The universe around us is dying. I don't believe that, but moving from a state of high energy to low. On Earth, however, things tend to move in a contrary direction. This is hilarious because this is actually the truth, and his nihilism clouds his mind here. But anyways, things tend to move in a contrary direction. Eggs turn into chickens, people turn into more people, flesh heals, stupid becomes smarter, and the planet, once cold and empty, is now so full of life that you can't leave bread on the counter. How has life managed to cheat death? How has life managed to cheat a dying universe like this? Through death. This planet-wide creature known as life on Earth has been able to grow and thrive through an evolutionary arms race. The more advanced parts eat the other parts, and this ongoing battle between the eaters and the eaten is responsible for that state-of-the-art biological weapon you call a brain. Yeah, I mean, that's not necessarily true, but okay. The point really is, The rhythm of biology is life and death. Things are alive, then they die, and then through death they transmute that energy into new life in some way, right? When you die, you become, the energy that was your body then moves on into something else. And so it never really goes anywhere. It just changes. Same with psychology. This is actually my favorite part of what he discusses here. He says, your mind is a home with an upstairs and a downstairs. Upstairs, is in your consciousness, things are well lit and regularly swept. Friends visit, Scrabble is played, hot cocoa is brewing. It's a present, familiar place. Downstairs, it is older, darker, and much, much freakier. We call this basement the unconscious mind. The unconscious is exactly what it sounds like. It's the stuff you don't, won't, and or can't think about. According to Freud, there are dirty pictures of your mother down there. According to Jung, there are pipes, wires, and even tunnels down there that connect your home to others. And even though it contains life-sustaining energies like the fuse box and the water heater, it's a primitive, stinky, scary place, and it's no wonder that, given the choice, we don't hang out down there. However, your pleasure, your sanity, and even your life depend on occasional round trips. You've got to change the fuses, grab the Christmas ornaments, clean the litter box. To the extent that we keep the basement door sealed, the entire home becomes unstable. The creature downstairs gets louder, and the guy upstairs, your ego, tries to cover the noise with neurotic behavior. For some, eventually, the basement door can come right off its hinges, and the slimy, primal denizens of the deep can become Scrabble partners. You might call this a nervous breakdown or psychotic break. It doesn't matter. The point is, occasional ventures by the ego into the unconscious through therapy, meditation, confession, sex, violence, or a good story keeps the consciousness in working order. This is the rhythm of psychology. Conscious, unconscious. Conscious, unconscious. Same as the rhythm of biology. Life, death. Life, death. And it is the same in the rhythm of society. Societies are basically macrocosms, big versions of people. Only instead of consciousness, a society's upstairs is order and its basement is chaos. Whereas the health of an individual depends on the ego's regular descent and return to and from the unconscious, a society's longevity depends on actual people journeying into the unknown and returning with ideas. In their most dramatic, revolutionary form, these people are called heroes. But every day, society is replenished by millions of people diving into darkness and emerging with something new or forgotten. Scientists, painters, teachers, dancers, actors, priests, athletes, architects, and most importantly, me, Dan Harmon. You can see why he created Rick. Societies are macrocosms of people in another way. Eventually, they die. There is competition between different societies. The losers are eaten, and the winners reproduce. Like people, societies become neurotic and can eventually break down when they make the mistake of thinking the downstairs shouldn't exist. America is a terrific example of this. As our fear of the unknown continues to create more unknowns and more fear, it is now punishable by bombing to have a problem with America's bombing policy. In a human being, the equivalent would be diagnosable as symptomatic. Our basement is brimming with creepy crawlies. The pressure on the door is building. There has never been a bigger need for heroes, and they have never been in such scarcity. One of two things is going to happen. Someone's going to open that door and go down there, or that door is going to fly off its hinges. Either way, social evolution will not be cheated of its rhythm, and it's going to get sloppy. We all know it. We all walk around with that instinctive understanding in our unconscious minds. This is the rhythm of society. Order, chaos. Order, chaos. Now that you understand that all life, including the human mind and the communities we create, marches to the same very specific beat, if your story also marches to this beat, whether your story is the great American novel or a fart joke, it will resonate. It will send your audience's ego on a brief trip to the unconscious and back. Your audience has an instinctive taste for that, and they're going to say, yum. Now, with this in mind, now let's discuss this within the context of story structure. okay, the first line is this one here. We have order, we have chaos, we have the yin and the yang, we have the conscious and we have the unconscious, right? Your character is going to travel down into this chaos, find something that they need, and then return and reintegrate that whatever they learned back into their order so that they can themselves become whole and also have an effect on the society around them, right? With this in mind, now we can start to say, okay, how does one actually take this trip from the conscious to the unconscious, or from the order into the chaos? What happens is there are basic fundamental elements that have to happen for this to happen. First, we need a character. If we don't have a character, we don't have anything, right? So very, very basically, you need a character. Now, we need something that makes them actually want to take this journey into chaos, right? Because we usually don't just do this for no reason. One of two things is going to send your character down into this journey of chaos. One, they want something. They have a desire that is unfulfilled in some way, right? They want a ton of money, they want status, they want to be in a relationship, they want to travel, they want to become more wise. If they have some sort of desire, this desire can cause them to move into action, go after what they want. Now, you can also have a problem that forces them down into this unconscious, right? Or into this chaos. Sometimes we don't want to go into this, so then we get some sort of push, right? Frodo wants to stay in the Shire. He doesn't want to go on this adventure. He's not like Bilbo. Bilbo wants to be an adventurer. He wants to go fight the dragon. He wants to do these things. Frodo enjoys the Shire. He'd much rather be at home. However, this problem then creates his want in that situation and forces him down into outside of the Shire, right? Don't know what that is. So you've got the Shire here, essentially. This is the village. You can think of it that way. And then this is the chaotic big world that Frodo doesn't know and is about to be sent into, right? So once we have a sense of the problem and a sense of what the character's desire is, either the character has a desire, they go after it and a problem arises, or the opposite happens. A problem arises and now they have a desire to solve that problem. Now they must make the choice of commitment. They must say, is it two T's or one? I think it's 2 T's. If it's not, you can be mad at me. They must choose this descent and say, okay, I am doing this. I have to do this, right? Now they will descend into that chaos. Whether that's big and huge, like a big epic movie, like The Lord of the Rings, or it can be something smaller, like, well, I want to be in a relationship, and the new problem/opportunity is that here's a girl that I'm interested in. So now I must make the choice to enter into the chaos of potential rejection and all of these things to go after what I want, right? Then the 5 is the want achieved, and usually it is sort of, it also can be considered like the finding what you're looking for, right? On some level. We actually we got the thing that we were looking for, right? So then, this is why the second line here becomes important. Because it's not just this split like this way between sort of the order world up here and the chaos world down here, it is also a split this way. And this split represents the sort of character's initial worldview. And then the second half becomes, I'll put it outside, it will be clearer. Viewpoint 1 over here becomes viewpoint 2, right? So usually they have some sort of lie, and then they encounter the truth, and then usually they encounter the truth around here. And now we have to come back, right? So it's not just about going out into that chaos. It's also about how do we actually return, how to actually integrate what we found. So usually what will happen in a story is your character will achieve the thing that they wanted, and then this is where we have a surprise problem, right? We are still in the chaos, and that chaos is going to rear its head right at the moment that the protagonist thinks their story is over. And now this surprise problem also creates an opportunity, because we get a sense to say, okay, what does our character do now? This is why this becomes the climactic choice, and it's also why Dan Harmon calls the 7 the return, because this climactic choice is what forces your character back up out of the chaos, back into order, and now they are changed, and now they are back in their ordered state. They are back in their conscious mind. They are back in a society that is ordered. They are back in a stable world. Frodo destroys the ring, and now evil is defeated, right? And so this becomes an extremely important point, because we get to say this 7 is essentially the question of what has our character learned usually. And so now you have this flow. And now you can take this flow and you can place this on a lot of different like levels of a story. You can place this at something super small, like, you know, you're a character and you want food, but food is not in your house. So it's like you can make a very simple story. This could be a huge story. So you can have, you're a character, the want is food. I want some food. Problem, no food at home. So then your choice of commitment becomes, okay, I'm gonna go out to eat. Then I get my food. But then, surprise problem, maybe. So one of two things happens here. If, like, this is kind of where the story can end, get food and done. That's not very dramatic. What's more dramatic is a problem arises that was unforeseen and unexpected. For example, food is rotten and you get sick. Now you have to make a climactic choice, which is maybe go home or buy and cook your own food. Own food from now on. Now we have a little story where the moral is don't eat fast food, right? So you can make it super, super small and super minimal like that. Or it can become your entire big story, where this essentially becomes your act 1. This becomes your act 2. This is your act 3, and this is your act 4, where we now have each of these split into their sort of own circles, because the circle fractals down. It can be used large, and it can also be smaller. Like, you can use it for the whole story, and you can use it for the stories that are within your story. Each act is its own story. If you have 4 acts, you have 4 stories in one. And then now you can send your character through an act level structure that follows just like this. And this is what we see in the act of Lord of the Rings, what we're looking at is this act right here. We're taking this act, making it its own story circle, and then we're walking through the beats. Frodo's our character. Frodo wants to make it to Mordor, or he wants to make it specifically to Mount Doom. He's already in Mordor at this point. But he can't because there's a massive orc army in their way. So Aragorn steps up and makes a choice to solve this problem for Frodo. He's going to march on the Black Gate and create a diversion. Now that happens, and the orcs move out of Frodo's way. And then we get all the way, now that the orcs have moved out of Frodo's way, he can actually go to Mount Doom. And that's exactly what he does. Frodo and Sam make it to Mount Doom. And this is the big 5, right? We are here, right? We're at the 5. We've got there. Now we're going to have our surprise problem. Frodo keeps the ring. Then we move from that into the climactic choice. Gollum fights Frodo for the ring. They both go over the edge. Ultimately, Gollum, because he keeps the ring, ends up falling into the lava, and good conquers evil. And now we go to our 8. Now the world has changed. Frodo is now a different person, a completely different person from when he started, and he has removed himself from the ring. So, Scorpion, I hope that was helpful to you. Yeah, that's essentially it. All right. So I know in the chat I told, who was it I told about this log line? I want to take a look at this log line here. Valmer. Okay, Valmer, I am back. Let's take a look at your log line here. Okay. Now, before I even read any of this, I'm going to write out my logline formula, which you can find in my latest YouTube video, which is, or not my latest YouTube video, but my second latest YouTube video, which is here. How to actually write a logline. Highly recommend watching that video. And I'm going to use, so in that we have main character, inciting incident, goal, and stakes. These are the pieces that you want in your logline. So, after being denied exploring a world important to their faith, to gain access, the 2 twin religious explorers must work for a scientist whose research might just disprove their beliefs. Okay, so these are our main characters, 2 twin religious explorers. They are denied exploring a world important to their faith. I'm not 100% sure what that means in a sense of like, what is the world important to their faith? Is that a physical location? And then to gain access is the goal. Well, they must work for a scientist. So the goal then would be here, work for a scientist. Well, I guess you could say work for a scientist to gain access is the goal here. And then whose research might just disprove their beliefs is the stakes. Okay. So yeah, Valmer, I like what you've got here. I think in the sense of having your 4 elements, I clearly see the 4 elements for your logline. The biggest piece to me that is confusing is I would like more specificity about what this is. The world important to their faith. This needs to be clearer. I don't know what this means. I think it would be really good for you to get very specific as to what this means so that we can have a sense of this. Like, is this a particular place of worship they're trying to gain access to? Is this a land? Is this some sort of monument or landmark they are trying to get to? I see you in the chat. If you have thoughts here, let me know. So, that's what I think. The biggest thing right now is more context as to where they're trying to get to. The place they're trying to get to, I think, is going to be very important for how this is going to play out at large. All right. Valmer says, essentially it's a world that contains a relic that if brought back will grant them salvation. Okay. So after being denied exploring a world, let's say like maybe then exploring a land with an important relic, important like faith relic. What would the word be? It wouldn't be faith relic. It would be, what's a word for important religious object? I mean, does relic just work? To religious explorers. Yeah, I mean, I think it's something like that. Ultimately, you just want to get, it could be divine. Ultimately, I think it's just getting more clarity at that in this piece is good. I think you have the pieces themselves. I think you have the right 4 elements of a logline. You just need to get more specific on what's actually happening in that inciting incident. Nick is saying, when the story circle approach is applied to a scene and then we hook into the next scene, could you give example of a good way of moving from 8 of one scene to the one of the next? I recommend not using the story circle on the scene level most of the time. I think it is much better to view your scenes through choices and then use your circles for your larger acts. You can apply the story circle to a scene, as is the nature of course, Valmer, for sure. As is the nature of it being a fractal, meaning it can be small and big and it still works. But I usually have found that it is confusing to writers when they have a story circle in their scene. Hopefully that makes sense, Nick. Jason, I see you have requested to speak. Let me bring you up here.
Hello again.
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm on cloud 7. I know it's usually cloud 9, but 7 is my... No, wait, cloud 17. 17 is my lucky number. So...
Okay. Is that better or worse than cloud 9?
Is 17 greater than 9 or less than 9?
It's greater.
Then it's better.
Okay.
So, I fully completed a story circle for Adam's little journey in episode 1, but I forgot to ask you this before, but one of the questions I'd ask is like, so you mentioned him. I decided to go with your idea of him going unconscious outside of the carnival and then him waking up in the next episode.
Okay.
How does that represent the 7th and 8th points of the circle?
Can you share with me your story circle so that we can look at it? Because it will be much easier to make progress with something written.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to actually do a circle. I'm sorry, this is so embarrassing.
No need to be embarrassed.
Okay.
All I'd like you to do is write it out. This is a writing stream. So
Right.
the more that you write it out, the more clear help I can give you.
Right, okay. I have written something down, but the problem is I don't exactly know how to show it.
Well, you can speak it out.
I could do a
You can speak it out
Yeah.
to me, and I can write it out here. If you have it in a Word document or a Google Drive document, you can also drop it in the stage chat, and I can take a look at it there.
It's in my notes. I could send a screenshot of that and then post that into the
Yeah, why don't you copy and paste it from your notes into the Livestream stage chat?
Yeah, sure, I'll do that.
Perfect.
It may take a little bit though, but that's fine. I hope.
Time.
Okay, good. So, trying to find the best way possible to do this. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of something to pass the time.
No worries. Just if you just want to copy and paste it over, you can.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to do that.
Sure.
Yeah. It'll be in the live stream chat on Discord, so.
Perfect.
I'm really proud with how my story circle turned out, though.
Good.
I'm really proud of it. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to take a look.
Yeah, so if this ends up being the final version, and if I do fully complete the circle, where do I go from there? Do I actually write out a script, or do I do more story circles but for more individual acts, or what do I do?
Let's just take it one piece at a time. Right now, I just want to take a look at it.
Sure.
It will be clearer it will be easier to see what will need to be done once I actually take a look at what you've got.
All right. Well, I'm halfway there. Not living on prayer, but I'm halfway there.
Cool. Well, while you were doing that, I'll just tell everybody else, if you guys are interested in either working with me directly one-on-one on your screenplay, or you are interested in getting my full story framework for screenwriting, check out practicalscreenwriting.com. You can work with me one-on-one. You can also join the Practical Screenwriting course. Click or just go to practicalscreenwriting.com for more. You should see it on the screen.
Almost there. Okay. Last one. All right, it's there.
All right.
That took a little longer than I thought, but it's there now, so.
I see it.
Yay. Yeah.
I'm gonna make a little doc here.
Sure.
Okay, so we had the 1. It was 1. However, was the 2. Sadly, was the 3. 4. Was the Adam is 5. Unfortunately, is the 6. Adam overwhelmed 7 and 8. Okay.
Okay.
Let's do a little read.
Sure.
All right. So, Adam is in a zone of comfort. He loves his family, especially his cat Mika. However, he wants to stop being asocial at school. It's hard for him because he feels like he can't trust anybody. Sadly, his cat, after running out in the street, gets run over by a passing car. Adam is devastated and the grief begins. Eve and Peter, Adam's parents, don't know how to help their son with Mika's death. Eventually, they decide to send him to a school carnival to distract him from the loss. Adam, after refusing constantly, finally decides to go to the carnival to try and socialize. He hopes to move on from Mika's loss. At the carnival, he finds a veterinarian booth. He quickly connects with the group of aspiring veterinarians, befriending them. Unfortunately, as he temporarily leaves to use the restroom, he is followed by 2 of his nemesis, Nick and Ivan. Nick and Ivan want to prank Adam by dousing a chemical compound all over him. It immediately burns Adam. Adam, overwhelmed by the pain and cacophony of laughter, tries to run off. When Nick tries to forcefully stop Adam from fleeing, Adam shoves him to the floor. When Nick lands, a large crack in the ground forms. Terrified, Adam flees again. When he runs out of the fairgrounds, he feels lightheaded. He rushes behind a bush and sits on the ground, not wanting to be seen. Then he passes out alone. Okay, cool. So we've clearly got our character, Adam. This is good. He loves his family, especially his cat. However, he wants to stop being asocial at school. I like this. This is his one. Good. And then we've got our inciting incident. His cat gets run over by a passing car. Now, this is where we could also get into some story weaving, where getting run over by a passing car, we want to make this connected as much as possible with the rest of the story. I'm going to say this is just an idea that you can consider, and I'm going to give you this document after we're done, is maybe Nick and Ivan have something to do with this.
That's exactly what I was gonna go for. Someone was responsible for the car.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Adam is devastated, and the grief begins. Even Peter, Adam's parents, don't know how to help their son with Mika's death. Eventually, they decide to send him to a school carnival to distract him from the loss. So this here, I'm actually going to move this initial 2 sentences from the 5, because they are part of the 4, because this is Adam's choice here, right? So the main decision that happens here is that Adam finally decides to go to the carnival. That becomes his choice. And then the 5 is the get, where he quickly connects with the group of aspiring veterans. So now, notice that this 5 is directly connected to our 2. He wants to stop being asocial at school. Essentially, I'm going to say he wants friends. And now at this 5, notice that he has gotten that desire. He has gotten what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as he temporarily... Also, this is just kind of a writing note. I would cut your adverbs out as much as possible. Anytime you have an ly, try to leave it, because it makes your sentences less flowy. So,
Got it.
as he leaves to use the restroom, he is followed by 2 of his nemesis, Nick and Ivan. Nick and Ivan want to prank Adam by dousing a chemical compound all over him. It immediately burns Adam. Now, this is going to be very important. When we're discussing kind of what to do next and this sort of thing, I want some world building detail about this chemical compound. What is it? Where is it from? we don't even all need to know this. The audience doesn't have to know this, but you are the writer. Remember that you are the writer, not the audience member. And now this would be a really good point to decide, okay, how exactly do they have this compound? Where is it from? Because I think also it's like Adam should at some point find out the source of this compound, like later in this series, right? And that may also be, there might be an antagonist of some sort.
Yes.
Hiding behind this.
Yes.
So it would be important to keep that in mind. So it brings
I will definitely do that.
Perfect. Then the 7, Adam, overwhelmed by the pain and cacophony of laughter, tries to run off. When Nick tries to stop Adam from fleeing, Adam shoves him to the floor. When Nick lands, a large crack in the ground forms. So, are you saying he's gaining his powers immediately here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's him. I tried to find a way to show that he got his powers pretty much immediately.
That's definitely clear. If you want to show that he has gotten this instant power, you're definitely doing it there. Like, that's definitely what should be done here. Really, then it just, again, this is going to come into the world building again of like, okay, how is it that he gains instant power here? Does anyone else, does Nick or Ivan also get some of this on them, and does it give them any power? Is that something that we might have to deal with later on? So those are some questions that you'll want to have answered. And then terrified, Adam flees again. When he runs out of the fairgrounds, he feels lightheaded. He rushes behind a bush, sits on the ground, not wanting to be seen. Then he passes out alone. I like it.
And then the dreaded to be continued.
The to be continued. Yeah. Okay. So, in terms of your next steps, I'll write some stuff down here for you. There's a couple things you can do. First off, just like I said, the more world building detail, like I mentioned, like the biggest sort of expositional piece here that we need to understand is this chemical compound. Then,
yes.
Now the other thing is going to be, this is where you can start to write out scenes as one line under each of these story beats. So let me explain what I mean. When you have story circle beats, your scenes are falling under those beats, and they are the expression of those story circle beats. So, character, Adam is in a zone of comfort. He loves his family, especially his cat, Mika, right? We're going to meet Adam and Mika. We're going to have a scene where we meet his parents, and they're doing something here, right? What are they doing specifically? What is their normal routine? These kinds of things. He wants to stop being asocial at school. This might mean where we have a scene where Adam being asocial at school, and also potentially this could be an intro of Ivan and Nick, right? We get a sense of who these people are and that they are in Adam's world in this setup, right? Because remember, our 1 through 4 is our setup here, right? So we want to intro some of these important characters in that setup. Also,
yes.
And then maybe there's other scenes here, but the idea here is, if you can express your scenes as kind of one line, and express the scene as like, okay, what's the choice happening here? Like, what, even if it's a little choice, right? So Adam and Mika, you could have a little choice of Adam chooses to feed Mika, right? It could be that small, but it's like there's some sort of action being taken in that scene that gives us, some sort of level of context. And then, maybe Mika is being, kind of annoying to him, or she's like running off. And now we have this little sort of playful conflict that introduces us to Adam and Mika, right? Same with the parents. What are they doing, right? What are they actually doing? And what is the potential choice there? Then we're obviously going to have the scene of Mika gets run over by the passing car.
Yeah, it'll be quite the noise of all the cat lovers tearing up.
Then you're gonna have, you probably have like an Eve and Peter scene by themselves, and then they're gonna make a choice to like make Adam socialize, right? And then you can have a scene where they, Eve and Peter tell Adam he needs to go to the carnival. And also up here you can have scenes of Adam being extra sad at home, and also maybe you have something like Adam being sad at school. So I'm just throwing down some ideas to get you started here, but the idea is use your circle beats as like your headings, right? Like these are kind of the big subject line in a way, and then your scenes are the expression of those story circle beats, right? And so you can write them under there. It looks ugly, them all bolded, so I'm not going to bold them like that. But that's essentially, maybe I'll do it like this. This will be clean. That's essentially what you
that's much cleaner.
To do. And then surprise problem. Climactic choice. Yeah, so essentially, that's kind of your next steps. I like this, and also, I would love to see story circle beats for episode 2.
Got it.
So I'm gonna give you this. Let me say, Jason. What's the name of the story?
I haven't come up with a name for it. I honestly don't know, but I want to call this specific episode Chemical as a reference to the compound.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. I am going to let me just I'm going to DM you this link, okay?
Okay. Got it.
Let me pull this off. so that people are not going to get access to this. All right, let me DM you this message. All right, there's that Google Doc. I just sent it
Got
to
it.
you over Discord DMs. Excellent. Yeah, I like how this is working, Jason.
Thank you.
I think this is a strong circle. And to everybody listening, I am the best way that you can get help from me is stuff like that. If you're able to bring me a story circle, you're able to bring me these things.
Got it.
And that's really helpful. Great work, Jason.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I am going to go ahead and wind the stream down there. I think we covered a lot of good stuff today. Hopefully you learned something today, were helped in some way. The question you had was answered. I highly encourage you to keep writing. And I will be streaming again tomorrow. So if you would like to come tomorrow, I'll be here, same time. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I will see you.